I have patients who eat well. I mean genuinely well. No fast food, no soda, reasonable portions, plenty of vegetables. They exercise. They're doing most things right. And they cannot get rid of the belly. They come in frustrated. They show me food logs. They tell me what they're doing, and I believe them. Because I can see from their labs and from their body composition that they are not secretly eating pizza at midnight. They're doing the work, and the belly won't move. If you are that person, I want you to hear this. It is not a food problem. Or at least, it's not only a food problem. There are two physiological forces working against you that have nothing to do with what's on your plate. And until you address them, you can eat perfectly and still carry that weight around your midsection. Hi, I'm Dr. James Miller, family physician. Today we're talking about the real reasons Americans over 50 can't lose belly fat, and why the answer has more to do with stress hormones and sleep than with your dinner. Let me start with some basic biology, because I want you to understand why belly fat after 50 behaves differently than weight gain in your 30s. Not all fat is the same. The fat you can pinch on your thighs or arms, subcutaneous fat, fat just under the skin, is metabolically relatively inert. Annoying, but not particularly dangerous. The fat that accumulates in your midsection after 50 is different. A significant portion of it is visceral fat, fat stored deep inside the abdominal cavity, wrapped around your organs. Liver, kidneys, intestines. This fat is metabolically active in the worst possible way. It releases inflammatory chemicals directly into your bloodstream. It drives insulin resistance. It increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and several cancers. In clinical practice, waist circumference is actually a better predictor of metabolic disease risk than overall body weight. Here's the key thing. Visceral fat is disproportionately driven by two things: cortisol and sleep deprivation. And both of those get significantly worse for most Americans after 50. Let's talk about cortisol first. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. It's produced by your adrenal glands, and it serves an important function. In an acute stress situation, cortisol mobilizes energy, sharpens focus, prepares you to respond to a threat. That's normal and healthy. The problem is chronic stress. When cortisol is elevated not for minutes but for days, weeks, months, which is the reality for the majority of Americans over 50, it does a very specific set of things to your body. First, chronically elevated cortisol tells your fat cells to store more fat, specifically in the abdominal region. This is evolutionary. Your body is responding to perceived ongoing threat by building up energy reserves near your core, close to your organs. The biology doesn't distinguish between "I am being chased by a predator" and "I have a difficult boss and financial stress, and my aging parents need more help, and I haven't slept properly in 3 years." Second, cortisol drives glucose release from the liver and raises blood sugar. That triggers insulin. And as we've discussed, elevated insulin blocks fat burning and promotes fat storage. It's a double mechanism. Cortisol directly drives abdominal fat storage, and cortisol-driven blood sugar spikes create an insulin environment that further prevents fat from being mobilized. Third, and this is the one that really traps people, chronic cortisol breaks down muscle tissue. Your body uses protein from your muscles to produce glucose when it's in a stressed state. So at exactly the same time you're accumulating belly fat, you're losing muscle. Less muscle means slower metabolism, which makes the fat accumulation even worse. The cortisol cycle is vicious. Now, who is chronically stressed in America? Pretty much everyone over 50 that I see in my practice. Financial pressure, career transitions, kids leaving home and then sometimes coming back, aging parents, health concerns, relationship stress, the background anxiety that comes from living in a culture with a 24-hour news cycle and a smartphone that never stops buzzing. This is real. I'm not dismissing it or telling you to just relax. I'm telling you that your stress level is a physiological driver of belly fat that is just as real as what you eat, and it needs to be treated as such. What actually moves cortisol in the right direction? A few things with actual evidence behind them. Consistent, moderate exercise. Not extreme exercise, which actually raises cortisol further, but moderate movement. A daily walk at a pace where you can still hold a conversation lowers cortisol reliably over time. This is one of the most underrated things I tell my patients. Not weight loss, not cardiovascular fitness. Stress management, social connection. This sounds soft, but the biology is solid. Positive social interaction, real connection with people you care about, measurably lowers cortisol and raises oxytocin. Isolation, which becomes more common for many Americans after 50, does the opposite. Time in nature. There is consistent research showing that time outdoors, particularly in green environments, lowers cortisol. Even 30 minutes in a park makes a measurable difference on cortisol markers in studies. This is why I tell patients who live near parks or trails to use them, not primarily for the exercise, but for the stress effect. Slow, deep breathing. Specifically, exhale extended breathing, where your exhale is longer than your inhale, activates the parasympathetic nervous system and reduces cortisol. 4 seconds in, 6 to 8 seconds out. Do that for 5 minutes. It actually works. It's not woo, it's neurobiology. And reducing the inputs that are driving the stress response. This is where I have to be honest with my patients. If you're spending 2 hours a day consuming anxiety-inducing news and social media content, that has a measurable physiological effect on your cortisol levels. You don't have to go off the grid, but being deliberate about information consumption is a real health intervention. Now let's talk about sleep. Because sleep and cortisol are deeply intertwined, and sleep deprivation is a belly fat machine in ways most people don't understand. When you don't get enough sleep, and the average American gets significantly less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours, several things happen simultaneously that drive abdominal fat accumulation. Cortisol rises with sleep deprivation. Even one bad night increases cortisol the following day. Chronic sleep debt maintains chronically elevated cortisol. The belly fat connection is direct. Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, increases with sleep deprivation. You wake up genuinely hungrier than you would be after a good night's sleep. And the foods you crave when sleep deprived are specifically refined carbohydrates and high-calorie foods. Your brain is looking for quick energy because it didn't get to fully restore overnight. Leptin, your satiety hormone, decreases with sleep deprivation. This means you feel less full after meals. You eat more before getting the "I'm done" signal. Insulin sensitivity decreases after poor sleep. Your cells become less responsive to insulin, blood sugar stays elevated longer, and more of what you eat gets directed toward fat storage. And growth hormone, which plays a critical role in fat metabolism and muscle maintenance, is primarily released during deep sleep. Chronic poor sleep suppresses growth hormone output and directly impairs your body's ability to burn fat and maintain muscle. This is why you can do everything right with your diet and still not lose belly fat if you're sleeping 6 hours a night. The hormonal environment created by sleep deprivation is biologically incompatible with fat loss, especially visceral fat loss. What do I tell my patients about sleep? Several things that actually work. Consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends. Your circadian clock responds to consistency. Irregular sleep schedules disrupt cortisol and melatonin rhythms in ways that persist even when you do sleep longer. No screens, phone, tablet, television, for at least an hour before bed. The blue light suppresses melatonin. The content itself, whether it's news, social media, or even moderately stimulating shows, keeps your nervous system activated when it should be winding down. Room temperature. Most people sleep better in a cool room, around 65 to 68 degrees. Your body temperature needs to drop slightly to initiate sleep. Alcohol. I have this conversation a lot. Many Americans over 50 have a glass of wine or two in the evening and find it helps them fall asleep. It does help you fall asleep. It also fragments your sleep significantly in the second half of the night, suppresses REM sleep, and worsens sleep quality overall. If your sleep is poor, alcohol in the evening is likely making it worse. One more thing I want to address. I've had patients tell me, "This is all well and good, but I've been stressed my whole life and I've always been a poor sleeper, and I can't just change that overnight." That's fair. These things are genuinely hard to change, but I want to offer a reframe. The reason your belly isn't responding to your diet changes might not be a failure of your diet. It might be a success of your stress response. Your body is doing exactly what stressed, sleep-deprived bodies are supposed to do, holding on to that abdominal fat because the biology says it needs it. The path forward isn't eating less. It's reducing the signals that are telling your body to store. Start with one thing. Pick one. Add 30 minutes of walking tomorrow, or go to bed 45 minutes earlier tonight, or turn off the news 2 hours before bed for a week. One thing, done consistently, starts to shift the biology. Next video, I'm going to rank the 5 most popular diets in America for people over 50, from worst to best, based on cardiovascular and metabolic outcomes. And the winner might not be what you expect. I'll see you then.